A lot of people I work with ask this question a lot. And the question is, how do I find my true self? This is a really interesting question, isn't it? I mean, it's something I often say is that you need to find who you are before you make any big, profound decisions or changes in your life. And obviously, I must caveat this by saying there are some fundamental things that need to be dealt with before you even ask this question. Obviously, things like being safe and having enough money and having enough food, obviously. But once those things have been dealt with, the next thing is, before we make any huge choices and changes in our lives, that we really, really consider who I truly am, and do the things I do in my life and the things I think in my mind, do they actually align with who I am? I think often we're in such a hurry, especially when we're young, we're in such a hurry to become something, to be something, to succeed. And often that's at the expense of genuinely being reflective and genuinely considering whether the life choices you're making are really what you are. I often work with people who are holding on to old ideas about who they are and old ideas about what they want from their life. And often it's because obviously we are brought up in a particular culture, whatever that culture might be, and we are affected deeply by that culture and by the attitudes and opinions of your parents, of one's parents. And to challenge those ideas, to challenge those norms, takes some bravery and also takes some time and requires reflection. So in this video, I'm going to give you 4 things that I believe are fundamental if you're looking to find out who you truly are. Number 1, this is such an important thing that one can do, and you can do this anywhere, is whatever you're thinking right now in this moment, is to ask yourself, is this true? Is this direct? And is this honest? And often you'll find that the ideas and opinions and attitudes and the running commentary in your head are literally nonsense. They are literally things that your mind has picked up through watching TV or trashy adverts or endless Instagram scrolling, etc. And it's not actually who you are. It's just stuff like a tape going through your mind. So I call it processing. If you've ever noticed, if you go for a walk or you go for a run, you'll find that after a while you'll feel, because you're so involved in your physicality, you'll begin to notice possibly that your mind is just rambling. It's like a babbling brook. It's like a long tape on an audio tape machine. It's just running and running and running and running. And most of what it's thinking is nonsense. It's just processing. So it's really, really important to obviously allow the mind to do what it does, allow the mind to ramble, but to be really clear about whether this is who you are or whether this is just tapes rolling, as I call them. There you are, I'm showing my age. But the question to ask yourself is this: is this true? Is this direct? And is this honest? And if it's none of those 3, then it's just rambling. It's just the ramblings of your mind. You don't have to claim it. The second thing is to really process and consider the reductive and outdated ideas you have about yourself. And we all have these limited ideas about who we are and what we're capable of. If you are trying to jettison yourself off into a new direction and a new life, but you are holding on to old ideas about yourself, you will become stuck very easily. It's like trying to plant new shrubs in a bunch of weeds. The shrubs aren't going to do very well. You have to clear the old weeds out the way first. So this again comes back to this notion of observing what your mind does. You don't have to change what your mind does. You merely have to observe it and stop claiming it as yours. So once again, it is about considering these thoughts, these ideas I have about myself, about what I'm capable of, the things that I was taught by my education and the things I was taught by my culture, the things I was taught by my family, don't necessarily align with who you are. And it is really okay to challenge those things and to reflect on whether that's who you are and what you really want from your life. I mean, I found this incredibly liberating when I began to see that the kind of relationships and the kind of life that many people around me lived wasn't the life I wanted. And I made a conscious effort to firstly explore who I was. I went to many meditation centers. I was lucky enough to be able to do that. And then I traveled. And I think traveling was probably the most important thing for me. It challenged the very idea I had about myself and about those limiting ideas about what I was capable of being and what I was capable of doing. Massively important. Even if you can't travel and you can't spend years in meditation centers, to allow yourself the opportunity to stop and consider whether the thought you just had about I can't do this or I can't be that or I haven't got the time for this, that you actually really consider whether that's true and really challenge those old, outdated ideas about yourself. Number 3, I think, is fundamental. I think it's massively lacking in our culture, and our advertising and our online presence makes it virtually impossible to find this, and that's silence. By the way, silence does not mean that the environment you are living in or in is silent. You can be silent within yourself. Even if you're on a train going to work, or you're in an apartment and there's noise outside, or the kids are shouting downstairs in the living room, you can still be silent. It's about finding that silence within yourself. It is nothing, it's not, I mean, obviously it helps. If you can go and meditate on a mountain in the Himalayas, you're going to find that silence much more easily, to be in an environment that supports that. But that's not always possible. I find in my own life, I do a lot of traveling still. I spend a lot of time on trains and coaches and planes, etc., and cars, that there are moments within those journeys where I find a quietness within myself, where I make a point. For example, when I'm in the car, I don't put the radio on. I've got a real habit. I don't even put the radio on, actually. I just put on a playlist from Spotify or something. It's a really skillful way of avoiding your thinking. But to not have the music on and just to drive and be in the silence of driving, the stillness that is inherent within everything we do, you can find it in the quietness. So becoming acquainted with solitude, very important, with space, if you like, to become acquainted with the stillness and silence, which is already there, already present in every single moment. You just have to be quiet enough to hear it. For example, underneath my words, there's a stillness. It's got nothing to do with me and the way I present the words. It's in everything. It's in everything. It's available to you whether you're in the countryside, halfway up a mountain, or whether you're on Oxford Street in London or you're in Hyde Park. It doesn't matter. That stillness and quietness is always available to us. So silence, moments of quietness and solitude, massively important. Number 4 is meditate. Meditation is not about becoming enlightened, because of course, as I keep saying, there is only enlightenment right here and now. You don't have to become enlightened. Enlightenment is absolutely pouring off everything. It's coming out of everything. There is nothing but this state of enlightenment. All we have to do is be quiet enough in our mind and still enough in our body to reconnect with something we've always been. And a really good technique is to sit just for 2 minutes in the morning before you touch your phone and before you make your coffees. You just find a quiet spot in the house to sit. I find getting up earlier than the rest of the house. My house tends to be fairly chaotic with lots of family coming and going. So I find early mornings beneficial to get up an hour before everybody else and just spend some time in silence. and feeling my breathing. So a lot of Buddhist meditation techniques talk about the breath rising and falling in the body. But a really direct way to connect with that is to feel your outward breath. So you can feel the body fill with air as you breathe in. And then on the outward breath, you can physically feel your body collapsing as the air leaves your body. And in particular, that gap of stillness before the next inward breath is a really interesting place to rest your attention. So the breath goes out, and then there's this pause while the body just rests before the air is pulled back into the body. That gap there is really, really beautiful place to be. So to sit and to just follow that gap, feel that gap at the end of the outward breath before the inward breath is vital if you're looking for stillness in your life. And these 4 devices, these 4 techniques that I've just given you, they point directly to who you truly are. You cannot find, or you'll find it very difficult to really know who you are deep down inside, scrolling on Instagram, etc. It requires the phone going off and a period of time of self-nurturing where you actually reconnect with that quiet stillness within yourself. And these 4 things you can do will fundamentally change your mental state and will allow you to see very, very clearly what things in your life really align with who you are and what things in your life that you're chasing and seeking actually do you no good at all and are actually of no value to you other than they've just become a habit. So those are my 4 steps to find out who you truly are, who at your very core who you truly are. I'd be fascinated to know what you think, whether you agree with the things I've offered, or whether there are things that you would add, or maybe something that resonates with you. Please do let me know. I'd love to hear from you. I'll see you next week.